Let's get into our hard drive in the sky, working with S3 storage. This is my only slide for this nugget, and that's because I plan on living and breathing in that AWS Management Console for S3 and just getting a good feel for how we work with this mysterious cloud-based hard drive. So the first thing I'm going to do is get in and create an S3 bucket. That's really easy. Talk about adding content and modifying the permissions of that content so that people are able to access it beyond just you, and we'll kind of merge that right into making your content publicly accessible. Talk about a few pretty much how to do it, and then some tips and tricks to make it look seamless. And then finally, I want to show you AWS CloudFront, which is their edge distribution network that allows you to send your stuff around the world so it responds really fast from no matter where people are at. So let's dive in. I'm going to go into the AWS Management Console and shoot down here to the S3, Scalable Storage in the Cloud. And by default, when you get in here, it's a very simple interface. You just have the yellow box and then this buckets area. Now, you may have a template bucket in here by default. You can delete it or rename it or whatever you want to do. I'm going to go in and create a bucket, and we'll name it. Let me show you this. I'm going to do temp bucket. Notice we have our region. Where do you want this bucket at? I'll just use US standard and hit create. Now I'm going to get an error message, I figured, because it says that bucket is not available. The bucket namespace, here's the key, the bucket namespace is shared by all users of the system. Wow. That means your bucket has to be unique from everybody else's bucket in the U.S. standard. That's the Pacific region, or it might be Virginia. I'm not. Again, they have it in their documentation of where the standard region is at. But you have to make sure that your bucket name is unique among all the people that are sitting in that region. Now, why? What's the point? Well, we're going to find out that Amazon will create and generate a URL for you that allows you to access that bucket. It kind of goes into that hosting model. Access that bucket from wherever you are at, and that URL looks something like tempbucket.pacific.s3.aws. I mean, it's just a big old long URL. But what they allow you to do, and I'll explain this more in a little bit, is create a CNAME record so that you're able to come in and generate kind of an alias for that. Because, I mean, you don't want to be like, hey, come check out my new website, man. Just go to tempbucket.s3.aws.amazon. I mean, people, what? So you're going to want to create a CNAME, a DNS CNAME that says, you know what, come to my website at tempbucket.com. It's awesome. And that's all people know. But behind the scenes, that actually uses S3. So it kind of ties into that. So we need to make this unique, is the point. So I'm going to add CBT to that. Let's see if that's create. Yep, if that's create, that's unique. So we have our first bucket here. Now, what is a bucket? Think of it like a hard drive partition. So on your computer, you've got your C drive, your D drive, you know, all these different partitions. So a bucket is just kind of an isolated partition of folders and files. Now, you can see right here that I've got the bucket created, and then they actually have, believe it or not, this is a new feature. Before recently, I'll say the last few years, you had to go find a utility to actually put stuff in your bucket. You couldn't do it directly from the web interface. You can see there's still even like, an enhanced uploader that lets you upload a whole folder at a time. But this allows you to, throw whatever you want in that bucket. I'll click on Add Files. I'm looking at my, this is the kind of stuff Jeremy downloads. Be safe. Elmo safe installation picture. So hey, let's throw them in there. Let's throw the Chrome installation in there. Okay, please. There it goes. Chrome installation. Say wow, Chrome installation is very small. I'll click on Start Upload. I'm just gonna, if I want to install Chrome, I'll be able to put that in my bucket. Let's see what else. And the reason I'm showing you this is it really gives you an idea of like, hey, I can put anything in my bucket. This really is a hard drive in the sky. Let's throw a Windows activation update in there, along with the Elmo face and Be Safe and the safe installation. All these are just images, JPEG images. So I can click, add a few of them and do a start upload. Now, only difference with that enhanced uploader, which maybe will be out of beta by the time you use this, is you can just actually choose a whole folder and upload the whole folder at once. So cancer. So you can see I'm starting to get stuff in my bucket here. Now I can also go in and create folders. I can say I want a folder called images. Hit enter. I'm gonna let's right click on this guy, and I'm gonna make a copy of him and paste it right here into paste into my images folder, and now I've created a copy of that safe installation. Now it's sitting in here. Just here's some bonus information for you. Not too sure if this really interesting for me, but did you know that that folder doesn't exist? So Amazon uses a structure. It's more of a database structure than it is an actual file system to handle the S3 information. So what you actually did behind the scenes when you created an images folder and put a file in there is you just made a copy of that file. So now there's actually two files in this big flat file structure, big flat database at Amazon that you now have one called safeinstallation.jpg and one called images/safeinstallation.jpg. So it's all one big flat file structure. Now why is that interesting? Well, the reason it's interesting is the search mechanisms at Amazon don't have to look inside of folders, which would slow it down. It doesn't have this hierarchical file system, which would take a long time to index and slow it down and all that. They just say it's one big flat system. Yes, we make it look pretty for you and hide things in these quote-unquote folders, but really it's a big flat file system that just kind of uses, think of it like aliases to represent folders. So anyway, kind of interesting stuff. So now we have some stuff in our folder. So let's move now into the permission side of things. If I want to go in here and say, let's close this transfers. I'm going to right click on this guy and go to properties, or you can go up here, click properties. It brings up this little window. It shows, hey, this is your little safe installation bucket that we've created for you. There's a nice friendly link that you're able to use to access it. We've got the permissions. Now, since I'm the one, my AWS account uploaded this, it shows that I'm the one that has the open, download, view, and edit permissions for this. Now, some files will need open/download because you literally, like for instance, an image, you have to download the whole image to be able to see it, whereas others might take view permissions, like I can view a text file remotely. What I would suggest is just granting, if you want to make it publicly accessible, do both. Go in and say, I want to allow open and download and view to, hit the drop down, and we'll say, and there's our options, everyone, which is the internet. So if you're making a website, that's what you want to do. Authenticated users means anyone that has an AWS account will be able to access this. Log delivery. This is if you want Amazon AWS to write log files to your S3 bucket, it does it with this kind of mysterious user called the log delivery user. So we need to grant, if maybe we have a folder in S3 that stores log files, we need to grant that user edit or write permissions to that bucket. And then we have me, which is just a quick alias for whatever user I am logged in as. And then we have Jeremy, which is my actual AWS user account. So for now, I'm just going to say everyone has open/download and view permissions to this file. Now also realize that I have the ability to right click on this bucket as a whole and say I want to set the permissions for this entire bucket to, and you can see, do you want to be able to have people able to list the items in this bucket, upload and delete them, view permissions, edit permission. I mean, you can go through and edit that, as well as dive into bucket policies. Now bucket policies I am not going to cover in this series. I would say that is an advanced AWS topic when we create an expansion or an advanced AWS series, because, and I mean, if you sit there and tinker with them, you'll figure them out. But it really is kind of it's like its own little cryptic language for how you can grant permissions kind of on a bulk basis. So I can say everybody has this, and it gives you a lot more flexible permissions than just the open, the view, that kind of thing. I mean, this is where you're able to say, oh, I want to allow people to create their own buckets and that kind of thing. So bucket policies are pretty big. So for now, we're just using the simple versions. So I want to come in here and say, okay, let me look at this website side of things. So here is that URL that I was talking about. It says, do you want to turn this into a static website? hosted entirely out of Amazon S3. And I'm going to say, yeah, sure. Now, I'm going to be forced to specify an index. Now, what an index is the initial document that it's going to open when somebody comes here. So we might as well did it. I granted people permissions to save installation.jpg. So let's save that. That is our new index for our new website. Right there. Beautiful. So this is the index document. Excuse me, the first document that opens up. Also notice if I say, hey, I wanna look at that be safe. I kind of know what I'm looking for here. So besafe.jpg. Bam! Access denied. You are forbidden. Refresh. Every request ID gets a little hash that it's putting in there. It's like you are being logged. You are smacked down. So the reason why is because we have not granted permissions to the be safe. So I'm going to go to that guy. Hit the property. Oh, actually, I'm right there. Permissions. I'm going to click on add permissions. And I'm going to say everyone, open, download, view permissions. Let's click on save. And I'll come back here and do a refresh. Whew. We've got our be safe document that's now displayed. So you can see how these permissions work and they play out. So let's talk about making this real. Right now every single file in this bucket gets its own URL. You can see right here I've got this little link, which is great. I mean that's kind of a good start to where we can say, okay, there's my my be safe file that I'm accessing, but maybe I want to make it my own. Like, I don't want to tell people go to S3 Amazon AWS.com/template besafe.jpg. I want to have my own URL that points to that. I have a tickle in my nose. Ugh, it's the worst. Just sneeze and get it over with. So what Amazon recommends you do is create a CNAME record. What a CNAME is just kind of an alias, a pointer for DNS. So, for example, I have, let's see, what would be a good example that I could do? I have the domain chara.org, which is my last name. I primarily use it for email, so I don't really host anything on chara.org. So with that URL, maybe I want to create images.chara.org that points to this big image library that I have stored on AWS, on some of the S3 servers for AWS. So what I can do is I can actually create a CNAME. This is it, a CNAME in DNS that says, when people go there, it actually points to s3.amazon, that URL that we were looking at before. Because here's what happens: when somebody on their computer opens a web browser and goes to my website, we'll say it's www.chara.org, and goes to my website. It's spelled right there. That will actually have, it's got a web page and it'll have images on there, and the URL for those images will be images.chara.org, essentially this, / be safe, right? .jpg or whatever my image is, and that's, as I'm coding the web page, that's going to be what generates it. So when the web browser here's how the pieces come together. The web browser comes here, so it goes, oh, it looks like the website is saying I need to go to images.chara.org. So it creates a web request, and think of it as an HTTP request, saying I need from images.chara.org. I'm just going really quick. I need the be safe picture. Well, if I create this pointer, Amazon will actually get that request, and they'll say, oh, images.chara.org. Here's the question: do I have a bucket for that? So in order to make this work, I can't use a bucket name called tempBucketCBT. I need to create a bucket name called images.chara.org. Yes, you can do that. And it comes up and says, okay, I've now got this bucket. Let's just grab the images out of here. I'm going to do a little copy, a little paste action. So now I've got the 3 images sitting in this bucket, and let's Go in and make sure that they have the correct permission. Okay, so it did copy the permissions over, so we need Elmo face. It needs to have some permissions for people to be able to view our Elmo face, and I believe the safe installation already has it. Okay, so we've got all of these guys with the correct permissions. So now I'm creating this scenario on the fly. So I'm like, can I do this? Really? Is this for real? Let me check. Yeah, I think I should be able to. I logged into my cPanel. I have my domain hosted. So I just logged into my cPanel, and I should be able to create the DNS record I need. So let's do it. I'm going to go to this images.chara.org bucket right here. Let it load up. Squish this in here. So I'm going to go to the website and say, okay, I want this hosted as a website. So you can see, index document. Oh, sure, we'll be safe is our index document. But notice the URL is images.chara.org.s3, this big long URL that they created for us, which also responds if somebody, we're going to point them to that URL, and I need that for my CNAME record. Kind of copy that to my clipboard. But it's automatically going to respond for that first section there when it receives a request. So hang on, let me update the CNAME record. Okay, I've done that. So now let's test it. I went and updated my cPanel, and by the way, I tested it and forgot to hit the save button. We have to hit save when we enable that. So I'm going to open a command prompt, show you a handy tool if you ever want to check it out. NSLOOKUP, and I'll do a give me the CNAME record for images.chara.org. Verify. Show me where that's going. And it says, oh, that's actually images.chara. So if somebody knows what they're doing, they're like, let's dig in and see where Chara hosts his image files. They can do it. And they're like, aha! It's not a big secret that you're running off of S3. It shouldn't be anyway. So now I will be able to come here and say, let's go to, let me go to my new tab right here. And do images.chara.org / there it is, besafe.jpg. And now, from the user's perspective, they're like, oh, it's your website. We got to come back here. Let's go to elmoface, elmoface.jpg, elmoface.jpg. Bam, look at that. Beautiful picture. So all of that being run off of S3, but looking like it's coming from your system, and that is how we create our buckets so that they can be kind of camouflaged. All right, last thing I want to show you is kind of the bonus material, just to give you an overview of AWS CloudFront. It's not specifically an S3 thing by any means, but since we're talking about web content and efficient access and websites and all that kind of stuff, I thought what a great way to throw that one in there as well. AWS CloudFront, what it is giving you access to the same essentially distribution system that Amazon uses to distribute their website information. Let me give you an idea. When you go to Amazon.com, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but it's always fast. I go to Amazon.com, bam! I'm like that cooking guy on the cooking show. Bam! I just like doing that. There it is. It's quick, it's snappy, it's efficient. Why? Well, because Amazon actually sends their content, their web content, all over to the world. All over the world, to where there is, this content is on, who knows, 10, 20, 30 servers spread all around the world, and I, based on DNS and wherever I am getting the closest server to me to give me the fastest possible response time. I'm sure Amazon probably has a server somewhere in Japan or Australia or wherever, all these different servers all around the world. So when somebody in Australia accesses it, bam! There it is. Any chance I can get. There it is. It's there and quick. But obviously, if I'm accessing Australia, it's going to be a little slow. There's just a natural delay going around the world. So that's what's known as edge distribution. So with CloudFront, the way it works is I specify with Cloud. It's actually really for what it is. It's like, wow. That's really easy. You specify where is your content. So let's just say I've got it on an S3 bucket, and I enable that S3 bucket for CloudFront. Now there's no startup fees. There's no, you're essentially just paying for the bandwidth. And what happens is now that content gets distributed to all of the Amazon servers around the world as it's being accessed. So, for example, let's say we've got a server out here in Japan. I'll just use that for one, and then over here is a server in China. The very first time a user in China accesses my web content, that China server is actually going to go to my S3 bucket all the way back here in America. So this guy in China is like, oh man, this is slow. So it's going all the way back to America, grabbing my BSafe image, and then caching it on a server in China. So now, user number 2 that's in China, or maybe that same user, or whoever that accesses my BSafe image, bam, it's right there in China, available instantly for them. And as it goes, more users access it, the more that's there. So obviously, this is not for a website like images.chara.org. This is where you've now grown to the place where you have worldwide traffic. You're starting to get lots of visitors and things like that. Because obviously, if you got one person in Japan that maybe accesses you once a week, CloudFront is going to be like, oh well. That was nice, but you're not big enough for it yet. But as you grow, and I mean, if you look at it, the beauty of this is you're getting a complete edge distribution network, which, I mean, to get into that world, that's crazy. It's crazy cost to pay somebody to do that. And they're saying, hey, you know what? With Amazon S3, we're making the same infrastructure that we, Amazon, use to distribute our content available to you for only the cost of the bandwidth. The bandwidth to copy the files out of the S3 bucket, the bandwidth to actually send it to the users out here, which is... it's freaking amazing. I mean, I just think about it, and that's what makes me so amazed at the AWS concept is you can just feel it when you're going through this. It's like, Amazon has taken this and made it all pretty for us. But behind the scenes, like this same dashboard is what they use. I mean, it's like they created this amazing product for themselves to make Amazon.com great, and they're like, you know what? I bet you other people would buy this. And they're like, yeah, let's make it a product. And so like everything that you see here is like, okay, that's being used by Amazon. So from their front, to make CloudFront, let's go into it, to make CloudFront available to you, quote unquote, free of charge for the, just the bandwidth that you use, is a no-brainer. It's kind of like, well, let's go for that. So this is one of my test ones. I'm going to get that guy out of there. Goodbye, distribution. So when you first get in here, if you don't have a distribution, it says, hey, you don't have any. Click below to create one. So I'm going to click on create. It says, okay, what kind of distribution is this? Is this for your static or dynamic content, like stuff in an S3 bucket, or you can see on a web server? It doesn't have to be an S3 bucket, just something that's available for it to cache. Or is this streaming content? Maybe you have movies and things like that. Oh, cool factor right here. I'm taking you to an Information Week article that somebody forwarded to me, which it's what is it, August 30th right now. So this just happened a few weeks ago. But NASA launched this rover to Mars called Curiosity. That's the name of the little robot that's kind of going around collecting data. And what they wanted to do was stream video back from the Mars Curiosity rover, little creature. I don't know, what do you call that? A rover, is that the proper word? Thing that is kind of going on the planet. And then they wanted to provide that live video stream to the world. They said, we want to bring this stream back from Mars, and then we want to provide that to the world. So schools and museums and all these different places, people sitting at home can all tap in to a live video stream of, this Curiosity robot guy going around the surface of Mars gathering data. And you're like, hey, it's Friday night, let's watch the rover. And you kind of bring that up on your screen. And they're like, okay, we've got 2.6 billion invested in making this thing land on there. I bet you they're really concerned about that 10 cents a gig. And they're saying, okay, but wait a sec, there's a profound challenge, not just to get the stream back to Earth, but how do we handle the hundreds of thousands of people that are all going to tune into this stream? And you guessed it. I'm not going to read the whole article to you, but you guess what they did. They tapped into AWS, and then they said, okay, let's stream that. Let's kind of edge distribute that. Let's provide this streaming content all around the world using Amazon's infrastructure. And obviously, if it wasn't successful, there would be no article, or maybe this article would look much different. But that's kind of the approach that they took. So it's like, okay, come on, give me like a, yay, wow, 4th of July firework. that's a wow factor right there. So anyway, that's what we're talking about when we're looking at streaming, and they're of course focused specifically on using Adobe Flash Media Server's RTMP protocol for their streaming. So we'll hit download. I'm just doing a simple view of this just so you can see what it is. It says, okay, what is your origin domain name? And so right here is where we specify our S3 bucket. So I click in there and poof, it comes up right there. Images.charta.org automatically fills it in. It's like, okay, this is part of me. Amazon saying this is my lifeblood. So let's just use that and distribute that. It says, okay, well, what do you want as? I mean, this is where you get into all the details. You say, okay, what is the HTTP and HTTPS or secure only? How do you want to cache this? You can set up caching policies. For example, when you distribute this to the world, how long does it stay on that server out there? Is it 5? Maybe you have a constantly changing website. It's very dynamic, which most websites are nowadays. You don't want it to sit there longer than 5 minutes before it says, okay, do I have a new version of that document now? Maybe you've got, who knows? Come up with your web scenario there. So you can either say, I want to use the origin cache headers, meaning I can specify in the file that I'm distributing how long it should last. In cache, or I want to say I want to keep that for the time to live of whatever number I want to put in here, 24 hours, or you can see the default time right there is 24 hours that it will keep the object cache on the edge. So I mean, these are just the basic settings for it. Distribution details, what are your CNAME records if you have that. Default, I mean, again, I'm not really going to go through all of the CloudWatch settings that we have because it's bonus. I just wanted to show it to you as bonus. But just like that, I mean, in its simplicity, you've now made your S3 bucket available around the world. I mean, and you would expect, for something like this, you'd expect, like, as this thing's going right here, this little twirling thing, there's a little $ counter underneath here going, distributing $500, $2.6 billion. We've matched the NASA budget. So, I mean, it's amazing what you're getting with this. Okay, I'll stop, right? I'm just amazed at what this service provides for nothing. I mean, for just the cost of the bandwidth to distribute this around the world. So that is the idea of AWS CloudFront, kind of distributing that furthermore. So let me wrap up. We have seen S3 buckets, essentially, let me just globalize that, working with S3. As you can see, there's not that much to it. It's primarily just a big storage place in the sky where I can make anything publicly available. We saw adding content, uploading, modifying permissions, and do know that there is a world of data on working with S3. I mean, there's all kinds of third-party utilities. Go back to that, the one I mentioned in the last nugget, Super Flexible File Synchronizer is a great one. There's all kinds of tools that are created to make working with S3 easier and easier because it really is just a big hard drive that responds to very, very well-known APIs that can communicate with this. So I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.